The night Stephanie McMahon was dragged out in handcuffs may have been scripted, but with new bombshell lawsuits piling up against Vince McMahon, fans are asking, is Stephanie next? With her name caught in the crossfire of scandal, rumors of real legal consequences are getting louder. Let's break down what's going on. The arrest that shocked the WWE universe. On July 21, 2014, WWE Raw viewers watched as one of the most powerful figures in wrestling entertainment was escorted out of the arena by police officers. The confrontation began when Stephanie McMahon, daughter of WWE owner Vince McMahon and then authority figure on WWE programming, confronted Brie Bella, who was sitting in the audience as a fan after having previously quit the company in a storyline. Stephanie began taunting Brie about her decision to leave WWE, suggesting she had abandoned her sister Nikki and made a poor career choice by supporting her husband Daniel Bryan. As Stephanie continued her verbal assault, the tension escalated when Brie Bella refused to back down. When security attempted to remove Brie from the arena at Stephanie's command, Brie stood her ground, leading to a confrontation that would change the direction of the storyline. Brie referenced their previous physical altercation, where she had slapped Stephanie, an incident that would become crucial to the unfolding drama. This callback to previous events showed WWE's attention to continuity and storytelling. What happened next surprised viewers. Stephanie, attempting to maintain control of the situation, demanded that security remove Brie. However, Brie revealed she wasn't there merely as a fan, but had alerted the authorities about Stephanie's previous assault on her. As Stephanie tried to continue with the show, police officers appeared at ringside. The WWE audience watched as the officers approached Stephanie, informing her that she was being placed under arrest for battery against Brie Bella, stemming from their previous physical altercation. As she was led away, the crowd erupted into Daniel Bryan's signature "Yes, yes, yes" chant, showing their approval at seeing the villain get what many felt she deserved. This arrest segment represented a high point in WWE's ability to create compelling television. The company continued the storyline on social media and its website, extending the narrative beyond the broadcast. WWE reported that Stephanie had been released from jail and was described as an emotional wreck, with charges of battery and resisting arrest mentioned. However, no actual court proceedings or sentencing occurred within the narrative. Backstage revelations later provided insight into the creative process behind this segment. According to former WWE writer Kevin Eck, there were plans to show a mugshot of Stephanie McMahon as part of the storyline, but these were dropped after Triple H opposed the idea, citing potential career damage. This behind-the-scenes decision illuminates the complex balance WWE must maintain between compelling television and protecting the real-world reputations of its performer executives. What made the segment particularly effective was Stephanie McMahon's performance. Throughout her career, Stephanie demonstrated remarkable talent as an on-screen villain. Unlike many performers who struggle with portraying unlikable characters, Stephanie has consistently embraced and excelled in the role of antagonist. In a 2025 interview with Pat McAfee, she openly acknowledged this preference.
Love being a heel.
Yeah.
But thank you. Yes, I hate being a babyface. It's the worst.
Yeah,
the worst.
Love being a heel.
Prefer to be booed. Yeah.
This self-awareness about her on-screen strengths allowed Stephanie to fully commit to her character's more despicable qualities, making moments like her arrest all the more satisfying for the audience. Her ability to project genuine outrage, entitlement, and disbelief during the arrest segment showcased her talents as a performer. The McMahon dynasty in crisis, Vince's legal storm. While Stephanie McMahon's 2014 on-screen arrest was purely fictional, a decade later, real-world legal troubles would engulf the McMahon family, with Vince McMahon at the center of multiple lawsuits and investigations that would fundamentally alter WWE's corporate landscape. The aftermath of these scandals would lead to Stephanie's resignation as co-CEO and create a profound rift in wrestling's most powerful family. The troubles began in April 2022, when the Wall Street Journal reported that WWE's board was investigating a secret $3 million settlement that Vince McMahon had paid to a former employee with whom he allegedly had an affair. This initial report soon expanded to include multiple payments totaling $12 million to various women over 2 decades to suppress allegations of sexual misconduct and infidelity. As the scandal intensified in July 2022, Vince McMahon announced his retirement from WWE, stepping down as chairman and CEO. In a move that shocked the industry, Stephanie McMahon, who had taken a leave of absence from her role as chief brand officer, officer just months earlier, returned to become chairwoman and co-CEO alongside Nick Khan. Her husband, Paul Triple H Levesque, assumed creative control of WWE programming, marking a dramatic shift in the company's leadership structure. For 6 months, this new leadership team guided WWE through a turbulent transition, with Stephanie publicly committing to improving corporate culture. However, the situation changed dramatically in January 2023 when Vince McMahon forced his way back onto WWE's board of directors, using his position as majority shareholder. Just days after Vince's return, on January 10, 2023, Stephanie announced her resignation from WWE, ending her short tenure as co-CEO and chairwoman. While Stephanie's official statement framed her departure as a personal choice, behind-the-scenes reporting suggested a different story. According to respected wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Stephanie was about to be demoted following Vince's return, and since she didn't need the job financially, she chose to resign instead. Reports from Bleacher Report suggested that Stephanie appeared disheartened and frustrated by the changes Vince made to the board upon his return, indicating significant tension between father and daughter. Vince's return to power, however, would be short-lived. Just 1 year later, in January 2024, a bombshell lawsuit was filed by former WWE employee Janelle Grant, accusing Vince McMahon, WWE, and former executive John Laurinaitis of sex trafficking and sexual assault. The lawsuit contained graphic allegations about Vince's behavior, including claims that he shared explicit photos and videos of Grant with others and coerced her into sexual acts with multiple partners. The lawsuit also mentioned other WWE executives, with Stephanie identified as corporate officer num 3 inches and allegedly aware of other instances of Vince McMahon's inappropriate conduct, though she was not named as a defendant. The Grant lawsuit represented a significant escalation from previous reports about hush money payments, introducing criminal allegations of sex trafficking. In response, WWE, now part of TKO Group Holdings following a 2023 merger with UFC, distanced itself from Vince McMahon, who resigned from TKO's board of directors. The company stated that the lawsuit presents a different set of allegations than previously known and involved serious claims that Vince McMahon denies. Following the lawsuit's filing, Netflix, which had recently secured rights to broadcast WWE's flagship program Raw starting in 2025, reportedly dropped plans for a Vince McMahon documentary series. The streaming service had previously invested significantly in content about the wrestling mogul, but abandoned the project as the severity of the allegations became clear. The legal troubles for Vince McMahon further intensified in October 2024 when a new lawsuit was filed on behalf of 5 former WWE ring boys, alleging Vince McMahon knowingly enabled the sexual exploitation of children by a WWE employee in the 1980s. This lawsuit named Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon, WWE, and TKO Group Holdings as defendants, claiming that the company facilitated the abuse of minors by former ring announcer Melvin Phillips Jr. The Ring Boy lawsuit alleged that Vince and Linda McMahon were aware of Phillips's inappropriate behavior with minors but continued to employ him, thus enabling the exploitation to continue. The lawsuit was filed under Maryland's Child Victims Act of 2023, which removes statutes of limitations for child sex abuse cases. By April 2025, the case had expanded, with 3 additional plaintiffs joining the lawsuit and new allegations against Phillips and Pat Patterson being added. While the civil lawsuits proceeded, Vince McMahon also faced federal investigation. In the summer of 2024, he reportedly received a grand jury subpoena as federal prosecutors investigated whether he had attempted to cover up allegations of sexual misconduct. The investigation was led by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, and at the Justice Department's request, the Grant lawsuit was temporarily paused for 6 months to avoid interfering with the criminal probe. In February 2025, however, Vince McMahon's lawyer announced that federal prosecutors had ended their criminal investigation without filing charges. Robert W. Allen, McMahon's attorney, stated, "We have been in consistent communication with the government and understand with no ambiguity that the investigation has definitively concluded and will not result in charges." While this development provided some legal relief for McMahon, the civil lawsuits continued to move forward. Additionally, in January 2025, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission announced that McMahon agreed to pay a $400,000 fine and reimburse $1.3 million to WWE for failing to disclose settlement agreements related to sexual misconduct allegations. According to the SEC, McMahon had executed settlement agreements totaling $14.6 million that should have been reported as WWE expenses but were not properly disclosed, misleading investors. As these legal battles unfolded, yet another front opened in May 2025, when shareholders filed a new motion in the Delaware Court of Chancery to compel McMahon to respond to discovery requests requests in a lawsuit related to the WWE-UFC merger. This shareholder lawsuit alleged that McMahon manipulated the sale process to retain power and that WWE's internal investigation into his hush money payments was a sham. The cumulative effect of these legal challenges significantly diminished Vince McMahon's public standing and his relationship with the company he had built. While he had forced his way back into WWE in January 2023, by 2025 he had effectively been pushed out again, with no formal role in day-to-day operations or creative decisions. Throughout this period of intense scrutiny on her father, Stephanie McMahon maintained a public distance from the controversies. Following her resignation in January 2023, she largely stayed out of the public eye, making occasional appearances at major WWE events but offering no public comment on the allegations against Vince McMahon. The legal firestorm surrounding Vince McMahon provided context for understanding Stephanie's abrupt resignation in 2023. What initially appeared to be a power struggle between father and daughter took on new dimensions as the extent of Vince's alleged misconduct became public. Stephanie's decision to resign rather than work under her father's renewed leadership could be viewed as a prescient move to distance herself from impending scandals, but that was not the end for her. The unexpected return, never say forever in WWE. As wrestling fans processed the surprising news of Stephanie McMahon's January 2025 return to WWE, industry insiders recognized a brilliantly executed career renaissance that few would have predicted just 2 years earlier. What started as a seemingly forced exit in January 2023 had evolved into something far more strategic, a deliberate reset that allowed Stephanie to distance herself from her father's controversies while positioning herself as the potential savior of the McMahon legacy. But as 2025 began, wrestling fans and industry insiders were surprised by reports that Stephanie McMahon would be making her return to WWE, albeit in a very different capacity than before. According to the Times of India on January 30th, 2025, Stephanie was leading an untitled documentary-style TV show, exploring wrestling history with figures like Cody Rhodes and Stone Cold Steve Austin. This marked her first professional involvement with WWE since her resignation 2 years earlier. During her appearance on Pat McAfee's show, Stephanie revealed this project would be called Stephanie's Places, created in partnership with Omaha Productions and ESPN as part of the Peyton's Places franchise. She described her vision for the series.
And it's coming in March, ESPN original, Stephanie's Places. You know the history of this business through and through. What is the goal of Stephanie's Places?
It's really to tell the stories that haven't been told and to find out more about the people behind the characters.
She further elaborated on her approach, saying the show would explore what made WWE superstars successful despite challenges.
And what I want to do is bring, some type of advice to the audience. Like, these people are all hugely successful, but like most people, they've been knocked around a lot. So how did they overcome the challenges that were put in front of them? How did they get over certain things to become who they are today? And it's really their journey. That's what I'm trying to tell is the story of their story, their journey.
This return to WWE, albeit in a documentary role rather than an executive position, represented a significant shift from the finality implied by her 2023 resignation. It suggested that while Stephanie may have needed time away from the corporate pressures of WWE, her connection to the wrestling business remained strong, perhaps too strong to sever completely. The nature of her return was particularly notable. Rather than stepping back into a corporate role or resuming her on-screen character, Stephanie chose to explore the history and human stories behind WWE. This approach allowed her to maintain a connection to the company while keeping a degree of separation from its day-to-day operations and the potential family tensions that had reportedly contributed to her departure. During her interview with McAfee, Stephanie made a revealing statement about her relationship with WWE.
So one of the things that I learned when I stepped away is that I'll never get away from WWE, ever. It is a part of who I am. It is what I love. I really did grow up in this business.
Throughout her interview with McAfee, Stephanie offered glimpses into her mindset during her time away from WWE. When asked if she wanted to get away from the business, she provided a nuanced response.
I never stopped being proud, ever. I do think I wanted to disappear for a little while, and I kind of did, and it was good for me. I needed it. and now I'm back.
The dynamic between Stephanie and her father, Vince, also appeared to evolve during this period. While reports of tension surrounded her 2023 resignation, by 2025, Vince McMahon had his own significant challenges to contend with. In January 2024, former WWE employee Janelle Grant filed a lawsuit accusing Vince of sex trafficking and sexual assault. The lawsuit contained graphic allegations about Vince's behavior, including incidents allegedly occurring at WWE headquarters, and named both WWE and former executive John Laurinaitis as co-defendants. The lawsuit also mentioned Stephanie McMahon, identifying her as corporate officer num 3 inches and suggesting she may have had knowledge of other instances of inappropriate conduct by Vince McMahon. While Stephanie wasn't named as a defendant and no direct involvement in any misconduct was alleged, this mention created additional complexity around her relationship with WWE and her father. Following the filing of the Grant lawsuit, additional legal troubles mounted for Vince McMahon. In October 2024, a new lawsuit was filed on behalf of 5 former WWE ring boys, alleging Vince McMahon knowingly enabled the sexual exploitation of children by a WWE employee in the 1980s. This lawsuit named Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon, WWE, and TKO Group Holdings as defendants. By February 2025, federal prosecutors had dropped a criminal probe into Vince McMahon without filing charges, but multiple civil lawsuits continued, including the Grant case and the Ring Boy lawsuit. As of May 2025, these legal battles remained active, with recent developments including disputes over whether the Grant case should proceed to discovery or arbitration, and new plaintiffs joining the Ring Boy lawsuit. These legal challenges significantly altered Vince's relationship with WWE. While he had returned as executive chairman in January 2023, precipitating Stephanie's resignation, by 2025 he had stepped back from the company amid the mounting allegations. This shift in the power dynamic potentially created space for Stephanie's return, albeit in a different capacity from her previous executive role. The timing of Stephanie's return to WWE coincided with this period of significant upheaval for her father, raising questions about whether the changing circumstances influenced her decision to re-engage with the company. While she made no public comments directly addressing Vince's legal troubles, the timing suggested a potential recalibration of family dynamics and corporate relationships. Another factor potentially influencing Stephanie's return was the continued success of WWE under Triple H's creative direction. With Paul Levesque firmly established in his leadership role and receiving praise from fans and critics for his booking decisions, the environment at WWE in 2025 differed significantly from the one Stephanie had left in 2023. This new creative direction, combined with the business stability provided by the TKO merger, may have created conditions more conducive to her return. During her interview with McAfee, Stephanie displayed diplomatic tact when discussing her current relationship with WWE, referring to it as "our company" multiple times before catching herself.
You know, he's working so hard, but it's something he actually just talked about at the town hall to all of our employees. I say our, I know it's not our anymore, but to the WWE employees.
Staff, yeah.
McAfee's immediate response, "You shouldn't," and the subsequent affirmation from others on the show indicated support for Stephanie maintaining her connection to WWE despite her formal departure. Throughout the interview, Stephanie emphasized the familial nature of WWE, not just in terms of the McMahon dynasty, but the extended WWE family of performers, production staff, and longtime employees. She noted,
You're talking about camera people that have been there for like 30
Yes,
years.
yes.
You're talking about Nikki and his crew, the production crew's been
Yep.
there for like 25 years. The guy who threw Steve Beers during the Attitude Era is still there right now doing it. It's like everybody is at the top of their profession.
That's right.
And they won't leave.
when asked about her father's legal troubles during interviews promoting Stephanie's places, Stephanie reportedly maintained a professional distance, neither defending nor condemning Vince McMahon's actions. This approach allowed her to focus on her current projects while avoiding being drawn into the ongoing controversies surrounding her father. Stephanie's documentary project also represented a strategic choice that minimized potential conflicts. By focusing on WWE's history rather than its current operations, she could celebrate the positive aspects of the company's legacy while avoiding direct engagement with more controversial recent events. This approach allowed her to reconnect with the aspects of WWE she was most passionate about while maintaining appropriate distance from from elements that might prove problematic. When asked about her future in wrestling during the interview, Stephanie maintained an open perspective while acknowledging that international expansion remains a key focus for WWE.
So international is a big focus, but again, I'm not an executive at the company right now, so just,
Right now? Might be getting back in.
I don't mean anything by that. I just mean I'm, speaking on my own here.
Absolutely.
But international is absolutely a huge focus.
Stephanie elaborated on her vision for WWE's international expansion, demonstrating that despite her formal departure, she remained engaged with the company's strategic direction. In contrast to Stephanie's reemergence in WWE, her father's situation continued to deteriorate through 2024 and early 2025. By April 2025, the Janelle Grant lawsuit remained active, with disputes continuing over whether the case should proceed to discovery or arbitration. The legal battle gained additional complexity when Grant amended her complaint in January 2025, adding new allegations and naming former WWE superstar Brock Lesnar. Similarly, the Ring Boy lawsuit expanded in April 2025, with 3 additional plaintiffs joining the case. This lawsuit alleged that McMahon and WWE enabled sexual exploitation in the 1980s, with motions to dismiss filed by WWE and Vince McMahon in April 2025. The ongoing legal proceedings created a stark contrast between Vince's increasingly isolated position and Stephanie's careful, measured return to the WWE orbit. Vince McMahon's legal troubles extended beyond these cases. In January 2025, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission announced that McMahon agreed to pay a $400,000 fine and reimburse $1.3 million to WWE for failing to disclose settlement agreements related to sexual misconduct allegations. These settlements included a 2019 deal for $7.5 million and a 2022 deal, presumably with Grant, for $3 million. The SEC's action further damaged Vince's reputation and provided additional context for the corporate upheaval that surrounded Stephanie's 2023 resignation. A third front in Vince's legal battles involved shareholder lawsuits related to the WWE-UFC merger. As recently as May 5, 2025, shareholders filed a new motion in the Delaware Court of Chancery to compel McMahon to respond to discovery requests, as he was allegedly resisting compliance. These multifaceted legal challenges effectively sidelined Vince from WWE operations, creating space for others, including Stephanie, to redefine their relationships with the company. The contrast between Vince's mounting legal problems and Stephanie's measured, positive re-engagement with WWE created a narrative of diverging paths within the McMahon family. While Vince faced allegations that threatened his legacy, Stephanie positioned herself as a chronicler and celebrator of WWE's history and culture. This distinction potentially allowed her to separate herself from the controversies surrounding her father while maintaining her connection to the company they had both helped build. When discussing her documentary project, Stephanie emphasized the unique challenges of interviewing WWE personalities across different generations.
And it's interesting because with each person it's different. In some cases, like, I'm the younger person who remembers them as a big star, and how do we do this? And then in other cases, I'm the older person, and I'm trying to pull things out of a younger superstar, and it's no one show is the same. And it's just a lot of fun.
Stephanie's return to WWE coincided with a period of critical acclaim for the company under Triple H's creative direction. The Triple H era had garnered praise from fans and critics alike, with many noting improvements in storytelling, character development, and match quality. This positive reception created a favorable environment for Stephanie's return, as the company her husband now helped lead creatively was experiencing a creative resurgence. Stephanie's handling of questions about controversial topics, such as WWE's Saudi Arabia partnership, which she had defended during her executive tenure, showed similar restraint. Rather than relitigating past decisions or critiquing current ones, she focused on the aspects of WWE she could unreservedly celebrate: its history, its performers, and its cultural impact. The Stephanie's Places project represented a particularly fitting vehicle for her return, as it allowed her to celebrate WWE's legacy while remaining somewhat removed from its current controversies. By examining the personal journeys of WWE superstars past and present, she could highlight the human stories behind the entertainment, an approach that aligned with her previous emphasis on WWE's community impact during her time as Chief Brand Officer. The contrast between Stephanie's path and her father's continues to develop as of May 2025. While Vince faces multiple lawsuits and increasing isolation from the company he built, Stephanie has found a way to maintain her connection to WWE while charting her own course. This divergence suggests that while the McMahon family saga continues, its individual individual members are increasingly writing their own distinct chapters rather than a unified narrative. For WWE as an organization, Stephanie's return, even in a limited role, represents a connection to its past during a period of significant transformation. As the company continues to evolve under TKO Group Holdings and expands globally through partnerships like its Netflix deal, maintaining links to its history and traditions provides valuable continuity. As Stephanie prepares to share wrestling stories through Stephanie's Places, she simultaneously adds another chapter to her own story, one that defies simple categorization as either an ending or a beginning. Her journey with WWE continues to evolve, demonstrating that in professional wrestling, as in life, few goodbyes are truly forever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.